Today's video is all about how the Falcons can beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football in Week 3. You are watching Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, previewing this Week 3 matchup, and I want to begin by just getting everyone familiar with both the offense and the defense for Atlanta and Kansas City. So, let's just review. Well, it's not a very big sample size, but it starts to give us an idea as to who's who in the NFL through 2 weeks so far between the Falcons offense against the Chiefs defense, and then you look at the Chiefs offense against the Falcons defense. I'm not going to read too closely into any group of numbers because we're looking at 2 games right now, but if you do want to look at something, how about 4 turnovers from the Kansas City offense? That is not like them, and that's actually going to be a key to victory for Atlanta, which we'll look at later on. But overall, if you want to get nitpicky, the lack of third down conversions from Atlanta is something to keep an eye on. But again, it's been 2 weeks so far. I don't think anyone should be building a house out of just a little tiny stat that hasn't really had enough data points to prove to be a real concern or not. Now, as for some injuries here, just 2 big notable injuries. No Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs running back. He's out for the next 6 weeks, give or take, with a broken leg. And then Nate Landman was placed on IR right before Monday night kicked off. So he is out for this game and then the following 2 weeks at minimum with a quad and a calf injury. So those are the notable injuries to keep an eye on and to know for into this matchup. Now, as for some keys to victory, we're going to look at that in just a moment for the Falcons. But we are doing a sub-battle with our Chiefs channel here at Chat Sports. We've got a good early lead on them to open up this week, thanks to a lot of subscribers that came in on Monday. But if you have not subscribed yet, make sure to go ahead and do so. Hit that sub button down below. Now, let's jump into our 3 keys to victory for Atlanta. Key number 1, I want you guys to take a look at some of the uncharacteristic mistakes the Kansas City Chiefs have been making through the first 2 weeks. They're 2-0, so they're still the Chiefs, but they don't really look like the Chiefs, at least offensively, that we have seen or grown accustomed to the last couple of years. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes. Now, he is still Patrick Mahomes, but numbers don't lie, and Patrick Mahomes, through the first 2 weeks this year, compared to his historic averages in the first 2 weeks of his previous 6 seasons, isn't really looking like the Mahomes we've seen before. I mean, only 2 games, but he's averaging nearly half the amount of touchdowns in the first 2 weeks this year than the first 6 weeks of his career, first 6 years of his career. Way more interceptions. That's definitely something to note. 3 interceptions through 2 games so far, compared to averaging half an interception in the first 2 weeks from 2018 to 2023. So Mahomes is not quite at that Mahomes level that we all know that he will definitely turn into when the postseason gets here. But it's not just Mahomes. How about Travis Kelce? I mean, this one's a little bit more jarring in my opinion. Kelce, through 2 games so far, just 4 grabs, 39 yards. Compared to 2018 to 2023 with him and Mahomes overlapping, in the 2-week stretch to open up the year in that 6-year span, he averages 10.5 receptions and 75 yards per game in the first 2 weeks. So clearly there is a big disconnect going on at the quarterback tight end position to open up the season. Now, my gut tells me Kelce at his age knows, listen, I'm not here for the regular season. I'm here for the postseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kelce is kind of pulling back a little bit as he gets a little bit older to save himself for what he deems the most important season, the postseason, which it absolutely is. But when it comes down to slowing down Travis Kelce, the good news for Falcons fans is they've got a pretty good combination to do that. Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons, they have kept Travis Kelce under 50 yards 6 times in his career. Keep in mind, he's only done that 22 times. So they've got a very good safety tandem by itself, but it's also a safety tandem that has, I wouldn't say terrorized Travis Kelce because he still gets plenty of great games against Simmons at Denver and then Jesse Bates when they would go up against the Bengals and whatnot. But out of the 22 times that Kelce has not reached 50 yards, 6 times it was because he was going up against Bates or Simmons. So to me, that definitely signals the drought very well could continue for the Chiefs. Now, what I don't want to see the Falcons do is let these guys off the hook, right? We have seen Mahomes and Kelce at their highest of highs when they're truly running, And that's not a very fun thing to go up against. So the key for Atlanta in this one really comes down to let them continue to make their own mistakes, right? What's the old, famous war saying? Don't interrupt your enemy when they're in the middle of making a mistake. Right now, Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the world, and he's going to be very, very good this year. But he has not gotten off to a great start for his standards. I think a lot of people would agree on that. He's got very high standards, but still, the numbers don't lie. And I don't want to see Atlanta be the team that goes, hey, allow us to be the game where you guys get back on track. Now, before we look at the next two keys to victory for the Falcons, today's show is made possible thanks to our friends over at Factor. Meet your wellness goals with Factor's chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Plus, you can treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/FalconsChat50 and use code FalconsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code FalconsChat50 at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Key to victory number 2, more Kirk Cousins. This one has a little bit of a catch to it because I actually don't believe that Kirk Cousins going out there and throwing for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns is paramount to Atlanta winning. But I would like to see more of what we saw in week 2, of course, where he had a big bounce-back game after a slow debut against the Steelers, especially that impressive 6-play, 70-yard drive with taking a little over a minute with under 2 minutes to go. So for me, I think Kirk Cousins is not the sole key to victory for Atlanta because believe it or not, some of the numbers I would argue point the opposite direction. Allow me to illustrate here. So what we did was we looked back at all of the Kansas City Chiefs losses since Patrick Mahomes took over as the starter in 2018. And I hand counted all the opposing quarterbacks that beat Kansas City, how many passing yards they had that game. And what I found was a lot of them didn't have very good games. 5 quarterbacks that have beaten Mahomes since 2018 didn't even throw for 200 yards. I mean, 8 of them didn't even get to 250 yards. Now, you do get some great games, of course, right? Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, they have torched the Kansas City defense a couple of times en route to a victory. But I don't think that it's a very simple, if your quarterback throws for 300 yards, that's the only way you can beat the Chiefs. No, we've seen teams beat the Chiefs with great offensive play, great defensive play. At the end of the day, the Chiefs are a juggernaut, but they are mortal, and they have lost to Aiden O'Connell, who completed 9 passes on Christmas Day in Kansas City. So it's not impossible to beat the Chiefs without elite quarterback play. But for me, I feel like Kirko in this game is extra crucial because you've got him coming off such a high and such a momentum rush from week 2. I want to see him build off of that and bring it into week 3 because this is not the end of the Falcons season, right? Of course, this is a marquee signature game, Sunday Night Football. It's the first time the Falcons have played on Sunday night since 2019, week 2 against the Eagles. And by the way, since that game, the Chiefs have played on Sunday night 14 times. So they're a much more experienced unit at the Sunday Night Football entire charade and all the lights and all the attention. But for Atlanta, I think Kirk Cousins just not even bouncing back, but building off of what we saw in week 2 is crucial for week 3. But I'm also thinking past week 3, right? This is supposed to be the guy that gets you to 10 and 11 wins. Let's see him start to string a couple of good games together here. So before we look at my final key to victory, I do want to get your thoughts on this matchup. Who do you got? Atlanta or Kansas City? Give me ATL. Give me the Falcons. Give me the Dirty Birds. I'm dropping an ATL in the comments. I want to know who you got, though. Now let's check out my third and final key to victory. I would like to see a little bit of a resurgence from A.J. Terrell. So far through 2 weeks, Terrell has not been bad, but I don't think he's been the very highly paid corner Atlanta made him so far. Small sample size, it's just 2 games, but 4 targets, 4 receptions, 98 yards allowed, according to Pro Football Reference. No interceptions, no pass breakups. George Pickens kind of did a number on him once or twice, and Devontae Smith had a couple of big wins. The touchdown was not on A.J. Terrell. Rewatching the game, it looked more like it was on Caden Ellis, and that's a question in its own right. Why was he on Devontae Smith? But A.J. Terrell is going to be tasked with guarding Rashee Rice, who has been the number one focal point of this Chiefs passing attack. 12 grabs, 178 yards, and a touchdown, including a very long touchdown against the Bengals. So, for me, I think Terrell with Rice, taking away Kansas City's number one target when Travis Kelce is looking like he's playing in preseason form right now, that's going to make life a whole lot more difficult for Patrick Mahomes, who, in all the losses he's had some good games, but he's had some bad games too. I remember last year in Denver, the Chiefs turned it over 5 times. I think Mahomes threw 3 picks. So with Mahomes and Kelce not really firing on all cylinders to open up the year like they normally do, Rashee Rice, I wouldn't say is the lone bright spot, but now that Isaiah Pacheco is down, if you just look at the playmakers on offense, Rashee Rice is kind of, I would say, the best thing they've got going for them because Mahomes is still Mahomes. But if you were able to kind of bracket off Rashee Rice with how slow of a start Kelce has gotten off to, that could be enough to limit Kansas City's offense to, 18 to 21 points-ish, kind of an average day. And then you just need another 22-point performance from Kirk Cousins in this offense, and your Atlanta Falcons are 2-1. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give some shout-outs to the Dirty Birds Club. Jose Santana, Ken Ballard, Trey1222, Jason Lundino, Reese Atkins, Archangel, Angry Liquid, Jeebus H. Christ, and Dictator JC. Thank you guys so much for being such loyal supporters of the channel. If you want to get a shout out on another edition of Falcons Today during our watch parties or our videos, come hang out with us this Sunday. And if you're able to, a $100 super chat will add you to the list to get shout outs all season long.